Right. So thank you all for coming in to today's session, E-Meet Jindal School of Art and Architecture. We're extremely happy to host this session at DQ Labs, and we've got an amazing panel today. But before I introduce everybody, before I start off the session formally, I'm just going to wait for another couple of more minutes because I know people are trying to come in. So I'm just going to hold on for a couple of more minutes before we officially start off the session. So please bear with us. Uh, right now it's 6:16. So another 2 minutes, 6:18, 6:18 we'll start. All right. Till then, I'm just going to mute my mic so that y'all don't hear me say. Can all the panelists please mute your mics for a little bit till we start off? Okay, it is 6:18 now, and thank you all for being so patient. Today we have an awesome webinar coming up. We have the Jindal School of Architecture here to introduce to you. There's a wonderful panel that we have over here. Um, just to give you a little background, we've been working with Dr. Joy Chatterjee and his team, Zai Malpani and Azad Ali. I've been working with them from the last couple of years at, uh, at Jindal School. And we truly believe that Jindal School of Art and Architecture has something very different for all of y'all considering the school for your admissions. Okay, so I'm going to leave it to them to go ahead and talk about their school. But just to introduce the panel out here, we have Dr. Joydeep Chatterjee. He's the vice dean of the school and the uh, one of the most insightful people that I've met. Okay, so he's a double PhD holder, and let him talk about the rest. But he's worked a lot in India and abroad in the field of academics and consulting. Okay, we have Zai Malpani. She's also a very well-known. She comes from an architect background family, and she could also uh, talk about that. Very well experienced both in academics and in a professional consulting way. Apart from them, we have Azad Ali, who is the director of admissions, um, and we are happy to have him as well. And along with them, they have a few students, Aditya, Namrata, Shaurya, and Vidit, uh, to come here and share their experience with you. So it's a pretty interesting way where you'll get, number one, the ideology of the of the institute. The second thing, you'll get the curriculum, the course, how the course is going to be delivered. That is both their architecture program and their newly introduced design program. And you'll also get the student perspective. And some of these students have been students of DQ Labs. All right. So over to you, Dr. Joydeep. You can start off. Let me make you the presenter. If you can start off with a small introduction of yourself, and then
Sure. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Let me. All right. All right. I hope you can all see the screen. And thank you for that introduction, Dion. Yeah, like Dion said, I was actually trained as an architect in my undergraduate degree, but then went on to do a master's at Cincinnati for my first master's in history, theory, and criticism. Then went on to do another master's in cultural studies. Decided to then move to Cornell, where I sort of did my first PhD, which is in history of architecture and urbanism. While I was doing that, got really interested in anthropology. So ended up doing a master's and then another PhD in anthropology. Right, so I've been sort of teaching in the US for a while, and then teaching in India at some places, and and then ended up starting the Jindal School of Art and Architecture. Right. So what we're going to do is show you guys a bit of the narrative of what's happened in the school so far, and hope to get you all excited about this the same. Right. As Dion said, we've now known each other for a few years, couple of years, right? It was actually almost exactly 2 years ago that I first met with Dion, and it was wonderful meeting him. And and at that time, all we had was this idea, right? This idea for a good school, for a great school, actually, right? And this idea was what? It was essentially what you see up on your screens, right? To become one of the foremost centers of learning, which will produce a paradigmatic shift in the making and the discourse about the built environment globally, right? That was our thing in 2018, right? And if that was our big aim when we started off, we had a few little objectives along the way, right? And the first one of them was really fostering an environment where knowledge is not seen as a finite, autonomous, pre-given domain, but rather a terrain, which is as much in the making, right? And that knowledge is itself in the making as much as it tries to understand things, right? Our second objective was really to provide all our learners, which includes us very much, right? The faculty, very much with a multidisciplinary, with an intellectually rigorous and open-ended environment where everyone can chart their own trajectories, right? And sort of reproduce themselves as critical and self-reflexive agents working with our built environment, right? A further objective of our school, and this is in 2018, right? We're starting off, it was imagining and fostering an intellectual framework where we would stop going, we would go beyond what are called binary modes of thinking. And so this one is an expert and that one is a layman and doesn't know anything about the built environment, or there's theory and there's practice, or there's thinking versus doing, and so on. The idea was to for all of us to engage in and work with each other, right? And which brings us to the fourth thing that was an objective, right? It was to realize that learning and producing knowledge through students and faculty sort of collaborating together. So the idea was to get rid of what's called the transmission mode of knowledge, in which you imagine that your faculty is this reservoir of knowledge, and that knowledge just flows from down from us to the students. No, we have as much to learn from the students as much as the students have from us, and together we have a lot of knowledge to produce, right? And that's where we started from. What it really meant on the ground were a couple of very concrete things that we did, right? So I'm going to start with the first thing, right? So the first thing was really about learning from your context. It was realizing that the built environment is something actually we all are experts in, because we all live in it. We all live in cities, we all live in homes, we all live, in a town, or we all go to markets, we all experience parks. We do all of it. So all of us are really, really knowledgeable about it, right? And not only that, the idea was not to really sort of work on something in theory or on paper, but to really work in a hands-on manner from year one. So what this really translated into was that all our ateliers and our studio projects, right, they became these kind of spaces where we started working with real projects from the first year onwards, right? I'm going to share with you something that we did last year, right? So this is, you can see, this was a not-for-profit called Koshish, which was working with disadvantaged uh, and children from the lower economic sections of New Delhi in Kalkaji. And you can see us. We actually went in. We designed. We had our clients come in, right? This was a real project, right? We had our clients come into our juries, and we made real models. We retrofit the building. We analyzed the building. All of this was really sort of hands-on live project, right? First year. This year, our first year students, before the COVID thing struck us, they were all working on something called the Katkatha Puppet Studio, which is in again in New Delhi. And here they were, you can see one of the images. There's the client who is actually sort of, there's an interaction of the students and with all of the clients that go on. And it was to completely redesign this space for this puppetry artist, right? So again, it was really working with our hands-on. In fact, another project that we were doing, and again before COVID shut us down, was really redesigning an eco farmhouse for a very well-known environmental journalist, Bahar Dutt. And we were sort of trying to use all kinds of local materials and kind of use her philosophy as an environmental journalist to really work on site. Same goes for the second year students, right? They were working on redesigning a building. One of the first. This is called the Unnati project, which is one of the first buildings in India to actually get a 5-star rating for energy efficiency. But the students were really working on how to even improve that. And another group has been working with the dalmias and doing the retrofitting as well as the service. Whether it's the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of that layout for one of the largest farmhouses in the country. I mean, these are all really live projects that our first and second year students have been working on, right? Meeting with clients, going and meeting with structural consultants, going and meeting with other kinds of consultants, going and meeting with vendors, and producing drawings and things which are actually getting implemented, right? That's one of the ways we translated this idea of learning from our context, right? But it was just not our regular studios which did this, right? Our second year students went out to Garli in Himachal Pradesh, and there they worked with the community again. I don't know if many of you know, Garli is actually like kind of a heritage village, which is a part of Himachal Pradesh, and the students worked on sort of documenting, remapping, giving a lot of different solutions for that place and figuring that out, right? So here you see the students along with our dean Tom, who's up there, working and interacting with the local residents and again sort of working on a real project. And hopefully this project will keep going on and with so many of our other projects, right? The second way we translated our idea, which we had in 2018 and got it down to the ground, right, was to realize that a lot of learning has to be experiential, right? It has to be, you cannot learn about things by just reading about them or just like going to a lecture and things like that. Also, you have to learn how to actually work with materials, how to work with things, right? And what this meant was we had to do really interesting ways to even represent the kind of work that we did, right? So I'm going to share with you a short, a little video. It meant students doing interesting deconstruction videos of objects in order to learn them, right? So I'm going to share this video with you. Just bear with me. The idea was not only this, we did this with everything. The idea was that to be able to make something, to be able to understand something, you had to learn how to unpack it first, right? And as you unpack the thing, you got to know about its material, you got to know about its structure, you got to know about how forces acted on, you got to know about how people used it, right? You got to know exactly the process through which you made. And for many of us, these, it's not as if we went to first the drawings or a bookish kind of a thing, and then to this. We actually did all of this and then turned it into very different and interesting kind of drawings. For example, we did an entire project using what I call do-it-yourself drawings, and from there went on to more technical kind of drawings. It meant, as you can see in the lower picture, all of us, faculty and students sitting together and actually making brick walls, right? And actually making concrete benches and making concrete tables and all of that, right? What it also meant, which you'll see in the next video, was them having a all right, so it was students were a lot of fun, a lot of things, working on with their hands all the time, with the faculty, with all of us, right? The third way all of this kind of translated for us really was to understand that, as we argued, was that design was never a kind of a product. It was always a process, right? Whatever you're designing, whatever you're making, and there's this famous quote by a designer called David Pye, who says, "Everything we make is a mishmash. It's an improvised situation, right? And it's imperfect, right? So the idea is to always keep this iterative process going. So you make something, and while you're making, you realize what else you need to do. So you improvise on it, and then you realize what are the design principles on it, right? And this is a kind of a circular process, right? And we did this for everything. I mean, in every other school, people would learn structures through equations. We said, no, we can teach structures as a form of design, right? So what we did was, we had this fantastic project called the Egg Drop Project, which the second years worked on, right? Where the idea was to drop an egg from about 10 meters height and design structures which would, prevent them from breaking, right? And so, students broke their eggs so many times till they got around to getting it right. So watch what happens in the video. That was a pass. Ishita's egg did not break from a 10 meter. In fact, it was more than a 10-meter height in that case, and it worked fine. The fourth thing that it translated for all of us was this question of interdisciplinarity, right? One of the problems with design education in this country, which has been there, is the question of design education has been very, very blinkered, very, very cut off. That's one of the things we really wanted to avoid. I should talk a little bit more about the faculty later on, but what we did was organize and have kind of coursework in terms of our seminars and all of that, which almost no other school in the country has, right? So I'm showing you some kind of seminars that are there. So, there's something called the Sex of Design, where we are looking at sort of gender studies and the question of architecture, right? Society and Culture, which is essentially a pure anthropology seminar, right? A Modern South Asia, which is a history seminar. The Land Question, which is an urban studies geography seminar, right? Climate proofing, all of these, understanding space and place, which is also a kind of a geography meets anthropology meets urban studies kind of a seminar, right? Objects, codes, and equipments, which was again a kind of a a kind of an ethnographical study into things. Site planning and management, which is a lot about a management kind of course, which got mixed in with design courses and things like that. Right, I'm going to share with you some testimonials from our students on this kind of an interdisciplinary approach that we took. Right, these are from some of our students who are in their second year. Right, so that's Ronak, who's in our second year. Right, and I've kind of highlighted out the things that I think you all should look at. Right, so he was completely flabbergasted. Like, how is this going to work? Like, how are we going to even design our own timetables? And we managed it, right? People get to choose their own timetables. People get to choose their own studios that they want to do. People get to choose their own seminars that they want to do. It all works, right? And he's taking classes in politics, in history, in global studies, all kinds of things across, right? Then another student of the second year, Astha, she was fun. I mean, she came from, it's very interesting, but she came from a very small town in Madhya Pradesh, and, got very interested in questions of sociology, of philosophy. You can see from her writing, all she's looking at are interconnections between architecture, design, and all kinds of different subjects in all of her work, right? What has happened in the last 2 years is that our programs have also kind of changed, and and we keep trying to work, and as we keep getting feedbacks and all of that, right? So at present, we have about sort of 2 different degree programs which are already there, right? So one is the Bachelor's of Architecture. The second one is the BA Honors program, which is a 3+ 1 year program. And which has 2 pathways in it. So there's something called the Architectural Technology pathway, and there's something called the Community Planning and Development pathway, right? So let me tell you a bit about the architectural course. Many of you may be a little familiar with. So let me talk a bit about the other 2 pathways which are there, right? So the Architectural Technology pathway, what is it, right? Essentially, the Architectural Technology pathway is for those people who are very interested in working intimately with the infrastructure industry, with the construction industry, right? And who are technologists, right? Architectural technologists are sort of key members of a project team who play a vital role in turning what are called conceptual designs into technical solutions, right? Into into practical solutions, into buildable solutions, right? And this pathway sort of provides you with a knowledge base and with fundamental skills to work across building design, across sustainability, across codes, across construction, across technical writing that's required for our cities and our infrastructure planning, right? And for students who graduate from this program, right, there are many sort of employment opportunities which are there. Directly that you can enter the workforce as sort of building pathologists, construction building inspectors, construction managers, contractors, building estimators, evaluators, fire protection designers, land surveyors, project management, real estate consultants, real estate developers, and the list goes on, right? In terms of further studying after this program, graduates of this program become eligible for further studies in design, in architecture, a master's if you want to do, in ecology and environment studies, in construction and project management, in solid waste management, in sustainability, in what's called adaptive reuse technologies, all of that, right? The second pathway that is part of the BA program is something called it's called community planning and development, right? So who are community planners and developers, right? Community planners and developers are sort of key individuals who improve the quality of our life through recommendations such as the use of public transit systems, right? So how does public transit work, right? How does one develop walkable communities, right? How does one develop affordable housing? How does one develop accessible spaces, right? How does one develop sustainable building practices, right? How does one work on historic preservation, right? So their development, essentially, they're key personnel who are involved in the development of communities, making their spaces more sort of livable, right? They act as a kind of a point person between many stakeholders, who are required, and they work intimately to solve problems while creating sort of political, social, as well as economic opportunities for others, right? In terms of your coursework, you look at things like space design, like system design, like geoinformatics, sustainability, governance. You look at design management, you look at infrastructure design, you look at service design, you look at what's called public policy, you look at development policy, development studies, right? And so after graduation, folks who, from this particular pathway can directly enter the workforce as sort of city planners, as environmental impact analysts, as sort of real estate agents, as surveyors, as community developers, as what I call development professionals, as working in not-for-profits, working with development agencies across the world, right? They are there, right? Now, what about as soon as you graduate from this, you are also eligible for higher education, right? And the kind of programs that become sort of very open to you and also very easy for you to get into are again sort of design and architecture in terms of the masters, but also urban design, right? But also development studies, environment studies, policy and government studies, right? But even sort of things like finance, building finance, real estate programs and all of that, right? Part of this is also all buttressed by the kind of minors that we have. And right now we have about 10 minors that are there, right? And each of them sort of links our students with the other schools of the Jindal Global University, right? So you can actually be a part of our school and get a minor in liberal arts, right? You can get a minor in the business studies from the B school, or legal studies from the law school, or political studies from the School of International Affairs, or even a minor in journalism communication from the School of Communication, and so on and so forth, right? In fact, even our school offers minors to those of you who are interested. So for example, there is a minor in architectural studies. Obviously, that's not open to those who take the BArt program, but it's open to those, let's say, who take the BA program, and maybe are doing architectural technology or doing community planning, they could do a minor in architectural studies, right? And the minors are configured in a way. If we quickly look at the coursework that's there, each minor that you end up doing, you actually you do a minimum of 33 credits in it. What this allows you to do is that you can actually go ahead and do a major and a master's or even a PhD later on in your minor area of studies, right? So it keeps not only your options open, but actually turns you and makes you this kind of what I always call a T-shaped graduate, right? The long arm of the T being your primary area of expertise, but the short arm and the horizontal arm of the T being all the other disciplines that you find yourself connected with. More and more as we are going ahead, we realize that the blinkered way of looking at the world, where you say, I only know this, is out. That just doesn't work, right? So right in front of you, what you have here is kind of the Bachelor's of Architecture, course and credit layout. What is now in front of you is the BA Honors Built Environment Studies course and credit layout, right? So the foundation year is common for both pathways, but after that, you go ahead and actually choose your own pathway and you figure all of this out, right? And after completing 3 years, you have what's called a fellowship year, in which you kind of do a capstone, you do your internship, and you do what's called your final pathway atelier, right? And what the 4-year allows you to do is actually make you eligible for a master's program anywhere in the world, is in any design field in the world, right? So that kind of allows you to do that too, right? But what we are most excited about really is that we are introducing a new program, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hand the mic over to Professor Malpani, who is actually the course coordinator for the new program, and let her introduce that to you, right? So Dion, you can go ahead and make Zai the presenter.
Sure. Just a second. Right, I'm gonna make you the presenter, so you can start probably by introducing yourself and then starting with the presentation. Zai, hold on a bit. We're not able to hear you. Can you?
I'm just going to, at the same time, also show my screen to all of you. I think the cat was out of the bag. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear.
Can you all hear me now?
It seems to be breaking up a bit.
Is it? That might just be a bit of a network issue. Am I audible now?
Yes, you go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to get started. As I was just saying, Dion kind of let the cat out of the bag in terms of the fact that I come from an architectural family. I'm, I guess, the 3rd generation of architects in my family, which actually has led me to, I mean, one of the things that's happened de facto is that I've grown up hearing about architecture, listening to stories about architecture, and thinking about architecture. And now that we are a JSA, it makes one realize that there's really, at many levels, not much of a difference, and especially in how we're approaching the very question of design, there isn't all that way much of a difference between architecture and interiors, which is the new pathway we are introducing and offering under the Bachelor's of Design program. One of the reason we have the program is also because a lot of students opt for different streams, and they come to realize they're very interested in questions of design, which is something we are too. All of our key philosophies stay common between all of the programs that we are offering. How the interior design program situates itself is that we're very interested in questions of inhabitation. How do we live within spaces? And when I say live within spaces, I'm not talking just about our homes, but these are places that we are going to work. These are places that we are going to play. These are places that we are, in some form or the other, whether it's temporary, whether it's transient, we are always leaving our traces there. These could be traces which are built around objects. objects, they're around materials, they're around memories, there are all kinds of all facets of things. And at the same time, one can't ignore that much of what we do and how we are is very connected to questions of identity, of class, of caste, of gender, of economies, of politics. And this is the terrain within which we are situating the interior pathway. So I'm, like Joydeep, going to sort of lead you through the course and credit map. It's somewhat similar. Again, the interior pathway has a major and a minor focus, or a major and minor concentration. Our first year, which is our foundation year, remains common across all the different programs and different streams. But as we move into year 2 and year 3, we have ateliers that we are the students and the faculty are part of, and typically these ateliers again work with live projects. So and especially with interiors, the sort of skill that is needed to craft objects, the skill that is needed to understand objects, unpack them, to understand their histories, to understand the sort of affect that they have on people and the affect people have on them, on the objects themselves. This is what we want to explore in our studios, which are again bolstered by seminars that go alongside it. And of course, then we also leave space for your minor concentration, which could be, again, out of all the 10, except for the interior one, that Joydeep has already discussed. So with this, I'm actually going to hand the mic back to Joydeep.
All right, cool. So Joydeep, would you like to present, or you'll just?
Yes, I just have a couple of things to present. Just a few things, right? Can I just get the screen? Right. Thanks. Thank you, Zai, for doing that. We're really excited about this project, and one of the things that Zai mentioned, which was there, is actually doing live projects with interior is a lot easier than doing live projects with architecture, right? But sometimes with an architecture or even with an urban scale, it's very difficult to do it, and we've been doing it, but we are facing. But with the interior, actually working with clients and even making products, we have ideas in which we want to make products and actually sell them and see how they work in real life and things like that, right? So, all of this we have talked about. I'd be really remiss if I did not talk about all the people who are making this possible. And I have to say, so I'm just going to play this for you. And here are the people who are making all of this possible, right? What is really unique about our school, and we've grown a lot in terms of our faculty, right? And what is really unique is there isn't any school in India that I know of, and in fact, most places in the world that I've worked, which has almost 80% of its faculty from the top 20 universities in the world in terms of architecture, design, and urban studies. Almost 80% of our faculty has PhDs from those places, right? So we've been actually, gone all over the world and selected people from all over, right? And brought together this really extremely dynamic group of people. And and it's not only that, because we have all of these very diverse groups of people and people with extremely diverse sort of interests and expertise. We are also able to pull in, a lot of international scholars who come and visit our place from time to time, right? And we have a whole lot of lecture series and workshop series and many things, other things that go on. I possibly can't present to you all that we have done in the 2 years, but this is kind of like a snapshot, But what I want to do as sort of last is actually sort of hand the mic over to the students and let them present a little bit about their life at JSA and at Jindal, right? So, all right, folks, guys, over to all of you.
Sure. I share whose screen now?
Shaurya will be the one that has got the thing, and the students could speak.
Oh, yeah. All right.
All yours, Shaurya.
All right. So, Namita, do you want to start with the presentation?
So, hi, we're very excited to kind of take you through what we have take you through what we've been going through over the past couple of months, and the seniors as well over the past 2 years. So one of the things like that obviously make up a huge part of our everyday life at Jindal is the classes. And the classes, what I had and most of us had imagined initially coming into an architecture college would be something like, oh, we have sketches, or we'll have to make drafts, or we'll have to make models. But in fact, it's really very different from that, and it's really very interesting because we kind of we get to try multiple different things. Like we had an assignment where we had to make a movie, like a short film. We had assignments where, like mentioned earlier, we had to break down objects. We had to make a wall out of brick and concrete, or we had to kind of make a whole box out of wood from scratch. So all of these are really exciting, not only because they allow us to kind of build on several skill sets, but also because it just keeps the entire course really active and not monotonous. So we're really excited to always go to class, and there's always going to be a new kind of assignment that we're really excited to try out. And another thing that we really like about JSA is the fact that we're a small school. We don't have like a huge batch size of 160, and just one faculty member. So it's not like there's a lecture and everyone is sitting at the back and there's only say one faculty member working in the front, because it's kind of a small batch, and because everybody really knows each other. The faculty members and the students really get along really well. We have a lot of time to kind of you know um, talk to them, whether it's inside, like during class hours, whether it's outside. So that really, I think it really helps our entire learning experience. And this is just a video that we have of one of our workshops where we were making boxes out of wood. And this is just like an example of how what a typical day in class would look like. It's very flexible. The studio is something that is a place that we really enjoy spending our time in. And kind of along the lines of exposure, the fact that our classes are not really just like structured into say one or two subjects. We really kind of dive into multiple subjects. We get a great kind of exposure, and also the way like a really nice opportunity for us to kind of choose what we would like to study and what we would like to explore further. And also along the lines of exposure, I'd like to hand it over to Aditya, who will speak a little more about that.
Yeah, so I feel like being a very close-knit school, we're exposed to a lot of things, and we gain a lot of exposure in the sense that, say, for example, our end of semester juries, the jury members, we're really able to talk to them uh, through our juries, as well as instead of that, we get to interact with them. There's guest lectures almost every week where people from the industry, people talking about history and design and philosophy and architecture and all sorts, like a very interdisciplinary kind of approach. So that people from all of these fields come and we get to interact with them. There's often workshops where people will come where and conduct workshops on say art, in painting, or a wood workshop. So we're in that sense we're exposed to um, a lot of different things. Um, the learning isn't just restricted to the classroom. I feel like there's a lot of learning that happens beyond the classroom, in the sense that we have a lot of field trips where, say, we would go to Chandni Chowk and try to understand spaces and the way that things work, or go to, say, museums and look at the ideas of, say, a white box. And to bring that further, we even went on, as Professor Joydeep talked about, to a trip to Bombay. So the first year students went to Bombay for our research study program, and the second year students went to Garli in Himachal Pradesh, and we got to kind of um, use a lot of the things that we had learned and try to kind of figure that out in lived spaces, in cities, how cities work, and try to understand it through more of a practical approach than sitting in a classroom and just trying to understand it through reading or through various assignments like that. So I feel like that way there is a lot more exposure. There's a lot of practical hands-on work that we're doing, and which isn't really restricted to the classroom itself. One of the very important things I would say, as mentioned by Professor Chatterjee, was the working on site. So for even in the first, so we're in first year, so our second semester is going on, and we've already started working with our group has been working with the Katkatha Puppetry Studio, where we've gone and worked on site. We've interacted with people who work there, who live there, and try to understand the space, understand their requirements, how the space is being used, and then try to work with that, document that. And I feel like that is something which is very unique to our course, getting so much exposure in the first year itself. I think so that's a great opportunity that we have in terms of the exposure that we get at JSA. And I think further we'd like to talk more about the campus itself. And so Shaurya, if you want to take over here.
All right. So I'm Shaurya Kaushish, and even I studied in DQ Labs. I graduated in the year 2018, and I'm in my second year of architecture right now. So when I joined architecture, okay, first of all, again, when I got the proposal about the school, even I was very susceptible about the decision. Like, okay, this school has really started. Whether I should join this or not? What is going to happen? It's a hard gamble, but when I met the professors, when I went and visited the institution myself, when I met the admission team also, and when we talked about the professor's background, when we talked about a little bit about the course structure and how the year is planned for us, I got really excited, and I realized like none of the colleges, a lot of colleges in the country don't even offer this. Forget the country, a lot of colleges even outside India doesn't offer this course structure. So the flexibility that we have is, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah. So the course structure is quite flexible, and when we joined the college, we were told one thing, that don't call yourself architects. And architecture is not just related to buildings and constructions. You should rather focus on becoming a better designer for the people, not for yourself. Because in the end, it's not your design which is going to be reliable for the people, but if they're comfortable living in it. So the first semester of our 2018 batch was the breakdown of architecture, not just into drawings, sketches, and other construction subjects, but into various philosophical subjects as well. We went through a series of representation subjects, which Vidit can further explain. But before that, I would like to talk about campus life over here. So the pictures you can see right now, these are the hostels, and the picture on the right side is of the food fest called Bite. So annually we have 3 fests, and we would be having more later on if JSA organizes a fest, which we're pretty surely going to organize in the next coming years. And as JSA, we have also organized some of these events like Rangoli making, Diwali. These are some pictures of the guest lecture. So one great thing about our place is our studio is really customizable. I can hear some background noise. Can someone mute it? All right. So the studio space for our is not just a space where you go inside and you just close all the docs and focus on the screen and what the faculty is teaching. It feels like you're on a picnic trip, not literally, but the ingestions that are provided by the faculty members and the student conversations boosts up the entire space. This is the lobby. This is the gallery of a studio. If you can see the video. So wait up. All right. Now I would like to talk more about campus. So we have, if you want to know about the facilities, we have 2 football fields on campus. We have a cricket pitch. We have a gymnasium. We have a swimming pool. All that is available on the university website. But here are some of the pictures of the flagpole site. And if you're worried, since our campus is located literally the middle of nowhere, for that we have all the facilities available inside the campus. We have a convenience store, and we have a food court with Domino's, Subway, like basically all the junky shit over there. And if you want to know, I can probably pass it on to Vidit.
Thank you, Shaurya. So I will not take much of your time, everyone. I will just conclude by saying whatever Namrata, Aditya, and Shaurya have said up till now. So personally, what it has essentially enabled us over the past 2 years, for me, I'm a second year student, is to question things, and not just question about the things which actually make sense. Like before it, we were just questioning without even analyzing anything. So it has essentially enabled us as students is to question everything before we actually make any sense out of it. And that is my biggest takeaway after coming here, and it has helped me a lot as a person, as well as it has changed a lot as how I encounter stuff generally. And talking about how the life and how you will be able to live, and okay. So coming back to the point where I say that JSA will definitely be an experience for you to uphold, and you will love it here. Thank you.
So we actually do have a couple of more pictures left that we'd like to show you. So if Shaurya, can you?
Why don't you quickly scroll through
I'll
them?
just go through
Yeah.
it. Actually, it's lagging on the stream. So
That's a picture of our hostel, and that is a picture of the library, which just kind of show you what you can expect if you were looking for campus pictures. And that's actually a dog that we had in the studio for a little while. And so basically, our studio is very flexible. We're not just like, as mentioned before, like we're not just only studying there. At one point we had a little pet to take care of. We're playing frisbee, as you saw in the video before. We have dance parties, we've had karaoke, and we kind of celebrate whatever we can. So it's really a very nice space for us to kind of learn. So we're not really saying, okay, this is school and this is free time and this is time to so that's something we really like. And the next picture, like to the right, is also just a picture of the campus. Those are the hostels, and that's the food court that Shaurya was mentioning. And as far as like food and facilities are concerned, like everything is that, yeah, this is a picture of our hostel rooms. Everything is well equipped, pretty well it's really well maintained and stuff. And we have food places are open till about 2 o'clock at night. Otherwise, there's even vending machines which you need. So like, there's really nothing to worry about. You'll be well taken care of. That's a picture of Honey Hut, which is a bakery that we have on campus, and that is just a picture of the faculty housing. So, and this is during Independence Day. So this is a flagpole, which is a pretty interesting place for us to be around. Usually, we sometimes sit and study there as well. And yeah, that's that. If any questions, we'll take them towards the end. So.
All right. Thanks, guys. Leon, can I have the thing back for just one last slide I want to share with everyone? All right. Thank you all for being so patient with us. Just want to share that there's a lot happening. There's a lot more happening there, right? And there's something crazy always happening at the JSA, right? What I will say is, in front of you, we've got a nice Instagram, we've got some Facebook, we've got Twitter. I'd encourage all of you to follow us, right? Because the students keep putting up all kinds of crazy things. We even put up things we cook on there and have all kinds of discussions on there, right? So go ahead, please follow us here, and hope to see some of you there, right? All right, that's it from our end, Leon. Have questions, welcome to take them.
Yeah, sure. So anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. This is your time to ask questions. But Joydeep, just to take this discussion a little ahead. I mean, I know Shaurya personally, I know Namrata. So your approach to education is, goes a lot beyond just the academics. Because when I look at Shaurya and Namrata and these guys, I see a huge change in their personality, right? What happens there? I mean, that's something that's different.
So I thanks. I think, one of the things, you're absolutely right, Leon. The idea of the school is really that, right? It's just not about mugging, not about, learning, through rote and things like that, right? So the idea, if you remember, one of the prime sort of philosophical premises that was guiding us was really that each one of our students become individuals, right? And they become self-reflexive, critical individual practitioners, workers of the built environment, right? So to achieve that, the idea has to be, do a holistic development, right? And like many of them mentioned, it has a lot been, all of us, because it's our student faculty ratios are about 1:8, right? 1:7. And the thing is to really spend a lot of time with each other and learn from each other, right? Part of it is really we are kind of following what in the 19th century used to be called the apprentice system in UK, where your faculty was like a mentor, was like the most senior researcher, the most experienced designer on your team, right? So the idea is not, as I said, this kind of a, that we are faculty or we are the reservoir of knowledge and you are learning from us. It's that we all are in it together to identify a problem, to solve a problem. There is so much we have to learn from them, right? So I think it's part of these philosophical things. It's part of these ideas which have, allowed us to do the kind of things that we are doing, and for our students to learn that the way that they have, right?
Right,
I'd
right.
also like to add to that, actually.
Sure.
One of the things is, and this has been my experience, which is really very wonderful here, is that we don't imagine the way our program is structured and just the sort of lifestyle that has grown out of and around this program. We don't think that education should be a one size fits all, everybody in the same box kind of model. So we're really also interested in the personalities each one of the students come with and how we can help those develop further.
Right. No, that's a great
Yeah,
point.
so it's not so much them fitting into an education as it is education fitting around them.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, that's pretty cool. So there's a question here from one of the students, and this is a very, very big concern for a lot of students from the southern part of India. There's a reservation that, okay, we Southerners, what's it like to go to the NCR, right? What are the fears and what is real, what is not?
Right. So this is the one the students should take. So
Yeah.
Namrata, you are from there, and Shaurya was also from Bangalore. Aditya is from Bangalore. So why don't I let you guys answer this one, right?
I'm from Bangalore, and I can understand the concern, but honestly, the campus is really like the students that you'll find there are very like diverse. Like it's not like we just have everyone from North India. There's a lot of people from Kerala. There's people from Bangalore. There's people from Chennai. Like you know, all over the country, in fact. And it's a very nice like diverse group. I don't think you should at any point feel excluded, because you'll always find people who are from the same place as you. And other than that, most of the activities also that we're involved in, whether it's through class or whether it's extracurricular, there is at no point will we be doing something that is particularly new to you. It's things that generally people will be doing our age anywhere, right? So I don't think you should worry about that. Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I can say you may face that's a slight difference from coming from the south is a lot of people will be speaking in Hindi, but I'm pretty sure you'll get used to that in a little while. It should not be something that should concern you. So hope I answered that.
Okay, I'll add more to that. So if you're concerned about if there are less Southern people in the campus, I'll just give the ratio of our class. So we have in my class, there are 22 people, and 2 of us are from Bangalore, 4 are from Hyderabad, 1 is from Bombay, 1 is from Kerala. So you can already see the ratio. It's not like 10:1. it's pretty good balance over there. And even in hostels, you hear people speaking in Tamil in the morning. They'll say, "What's up, what's up, macha?" in the morning, and so it's pretty peaceful over there if you come. And for that matter of fact, even in first years, there are 10 people. There are 10 students from Hyderabad, few from West Bengal, and one student from Northeast as well. So it's not just we're attracting people from Haryana and NCR region. We're attracting people from all over the country.
Yeah, in fact, sorry, go ahead, Aditya. Sorry,
I
apologize.
to add one thing.
Sure.
Besides the diversity which is within the students, I think even the interactions that we've had with, say, the support staff or the people who are from the region that that we are living in, or where the campus is, I don't think we've had any experiences or any negative experiences. We've only had like amazing conversations with, say, the bus drivers, or say with people people like from that region. I don't think we've had any sort of negative experience, and people have been lovely. So it's I would say that you might face like a culture change coming from the south, but I don't think there's anything to worry about in that sense. I think everyone will have like a great experience with the people.
Yeah.
All right. So Mohan Kumar has a question,
Sure.
which says, what are the opportunities after graduation? Because I think your program gives a lot of diversity, because and most of the time when we hear, okay, architecture, you graduate from college, work with a architect, and then you work your way up. But here there seems to be a lot more diversity. So if you could probably give us a little more insight on that. I know you covered that in your presentation, but probably a little more.
I'd love to go over it. Not a problem. So I am assuming that Mohan is asking about the BIAC program. Which program are you asking about? I don't know. But let me talk overall, and then maybe if follow up he can.
Yeah.
So one of the things that oh, right. Thank you for clarifying that, Dion. So one of the things I don't know, Mohan, if you heard when I was talking, is we want you to think beyond the standard model of practice. The standard model of architectural practice is dead. It was dead 20 years ago, right? It's just that India is still not woken up to it, right? Let me give you some numbers. Maybe that will help you reimagine what you are thinking is going to be your future going ahead, right? If you are, so in a country like India, right, only about 0.07% of buildings are actually made by architects, right? But the building industry is one of the largest in the world, right? Who is doing all of this? Who, up until now, we have not had people to do this at all, right? We, all of you may have heard of something called the Smart Cities program that is going on. What you should do is go to a website called the Center for Policy Research and look at the reports that they have produced on the Smart Cities project. What you realize is that for all the work that is required to be done, we actually don't have the professionals in our country, right? Because what architects do is only a minuscule part of the built environment, right? They're only responsible for a very, very small part of it. What we are trying to do in our school is precisely, completely expand that horizon. That's why the idea of the minor that we talked about, right? That's why the idea of the T-shaped graduate that I mentioned, right? So, all right, you want to do your undergraduate in BIAC, excellent, right? But if you do it, and if you do, you're going to be like all the 40 students who enter. How are you going to be this unique person, right? Who is going to be someone who's unlike anyone else? That's where the minors come in. So maybe you want to combine architecture and work with waste management. And guess what? You don't have to go and work in a regular architect's office then. What you're going to go and work is a place like UNDP, right? United Nations Development Project, right? We want you to go and work with places like the International Finance Commission as a designer, right? That's how we are changing the rule of the game, basically, right? We are trying to make you realize that, this little thing, it just doesn't work anymore, right? That's why our built environment is in the state that is in. You know what? Let me give you another number for you to chew on, Mohan. In a country like UK, which let's say, if we use certain categories to explain them, is considered a developed country. For every 100,000 people or population, number of population, about 4.3 people work in the built environment industry. All right, they work, they may have gotten trained as an architect, but they went on to do all these diverse kind of degrees. And somebody's solid waste management, somebody's working as a sustainability consultant, somebody's working as a green building designer, somebody's working just as a facade designer, somebody's just working on one of the major areas of work is print journalism. One of the largest hirers of architects and are folks who are into computational design is gaming design, right? So there are about, like I said, about 4.3 persons per 100,000. In a country like Nigeria, which is 10 times poorer than us, it's 1.43. In India, it's 0.43. That's how badly placed we are. So, the idea is to really expand your horizon, right? And to make you all stop thinking that the only work that you are going to do once you graduate from an architecture school is go and work with an architect. We have with here Zai. Zai was modest enough not to introduce her. She comes from one of the most illustrious families of architecture in the country. All of you who are giving matas would have heard of somebody called Mr. A.P. Kanvinde. She is actually his daughter. Now, it doesn't get better than that for you to start your practice. But ask her, she's in the field. She will tell you how architectural practice has changed completely. The skill sets that are getting offered in other schools are about 30 years old. What you need to do is offer a skill set that's 20 years from now, because that's where you are going to come into your peak, right? So that's the way we are trying to address all of this, right?
Awesome. Right. Right. So Anshuman Tiwari has asked about placements. Okay. I know that you'll have not reached there yet. Another 2-3 years more before you'll get into that area. But could you probably elaborate on the industry connect that you'll have, which will probably end up in placements?
Yeah. So Anshuman, thanks for that question. As you saw, our students are already working on projects. We don't have to place them. They're working on projects. When other students graduate, they're going to do paper architecture, right? Our students are going to come and say, yeah, let me take you to a building that I have made with another architect, right? So placement, see, this is what I'm saying. We have got to stop thinking in this one size fits all way of how we do it in this country constantly, right? What is placements? We are saying placements where we are taking you, you don't need placements, right? What you are is when you graduate, you're going to have people working. I mean, take for example, Namrata, who was here, right? She got, an offer to go and do a summer internship while her jury was going on. You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so during my jury, one of the jurors liked my work, so she was also working off of Bangalore. So she told me that if I was interested, I could work with her over the winter break. So then I reached out to her after I came back to Bangalore, and then I did get to spend 2 weeks working under her, which was, I think it's a really great opportunity to be able to do that in your first semester itself. And I think because we have a good we have a good relationship with one faculty, and also because we have the opportunity to connect with all of these other people within the industry who come to meet us, I think that itself because they act as great internship opportunities, potentially could also turn into a good job opportunity if that's something that you're looking for.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I'd also like to bring up. So while placements is a very, I mean, I call it that, it's something you expect, obviously within the IITs and the IIMs. What we do encourage very actively, apart from the work experience you're getting within studio, is for you to go and be part of internships. So pretty much every summer, every winter, you can go intern. If you're looking for certain kind of opportunities, the faculty are more than willing to help you source them out. And the thing that happens with, having some of the sort of testimonials I've heard from students gone on to intern after their first year has been that the people they're working with, their bosses, their superiors, come around and say, are you sure you just graduated first year? You know more than the fourth of your students of architecture. Right? So you're actually going into the work field very, very prepped for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
this
is not something
something
one can see in a program.
This is something I would really like to stress. Please understand this. When we said live projects, we mean live projects. Our clients give us a budget. We produce instruction documents for them. This is our first year students are doing it. This is not, I mean, this is not like a, ask Shaurya and Vidit. We had what a 1 lakh rupee budget for our Koshis project, and our clients just come and say, no money, make it without money. Can you make it without money? And we're like, okay, we'll try what we can do, right? And we would rack our brains on how to redo without spending any money, how to use recyclable items to do things like that. So what we are not even talking about, this is your studio. This is not something you do over summer. This is what you're working on while you're in semester, right? And you're making things with your hand. You're constructing things, right? You're designing things. You are literally building them. You are producing professional level working drawings from the first year onwards, like good construction drawings. In fact, I mentioned this Dalmia farmhouse, some of these. I think, Shaurya, you guys were working on it in your second year, right? If I'm
Yeah. So
yeah.
we are working on a building which is not ready yet, but the design has been proposed by two of our faculty members and few other consultants. And it's an IT tech building. And the second years were working on the schematics of the building, the services part of the building. So we were divided in 5 groups of fire services, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. And trust me, in second year, no one does this. Like, I asked my friends and said if they work on fire schematics and all that. I said, dude, that's the job of engineers. Why should we work on it? I said, if you don't know the roots, the nerves of the building, how will you get a building ready?
Right. So I believe, Shaurya, that in your case, ultimately, the things that you guys proposed were some things got selected by the client, right? That's what you were telling me.
So in the jury, the main client came and looked at a presentation and display, and he actually asked us that later on you should definitely visit the site when this is ready, and then you can see how your hard work paid off for this. Because we made the designs for the schematics, we calculated the electric load of the place, how the HVAC load is divided, and the fire consultants nearby. We mapped the place out, we mapped the locality out, and that's how we came up and routed across all the services together.
Thanks, Shaurya.
Okay, cool. We just have we've extended our time almost.
I know. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries. But we'll just take the last, probably the last question, and this has come to me on WhatsApp. So maybe last 2 questions. The first one for Zai. What kind of accreditation is given to the interior design graduates? Is it recognized by Council of Architecture, or is it on par with BDES?
Can I come in on that actually? Because
sure.
Those kind of things are actually my purview more than anyone else's. Yeah, so it's a full-on BDES degree, right? Which means that as I don't know if you all know this, we are actually an institution of eminence now. Jindal Global University is, and all of our degrees are accepted all over the world, and they're a state degree, right? So for the BDES program, our accreditation actually comes from both from UGC, the state government, but now since we belong to the special category called the Institution of Eminence category, we come under what's called the National Higher Education Board. So even they have approved our degrees, right? All of these degrees are approved by everyone, and it's a full-on BDES degree.
All right. So that's one question.
I'm also going to add to that. As far as interiors, I was just adding to what Joydeep was saying. So while we, of course, these are UGC accredited degrees. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
So there is actually no professional body in India which controls interior education, right? The Council of Architecture also does not have much of a say in it. There is, for the last 4-5 years, there is an informal body. I mean, it is a formal body itself, but they're not involved in education. The Indian Institute of Interior Designers, with whom we have close connect and we have a close relationship, but they actually don't have anything to do with the education part of it.
Yeah.
So
Just
interiors doesn't come under in India.
Please realize, unlike architecture in India, interior design is not a licensed profession, right? And so there is no statutory body other than the education bodies which accredit it, right? Architecture in India, for example, so it's only architecture. So for example, our BA program is accredited again by the National Board of Higher Education, is by the Haryana government, by the UGC. All our programs have all of that, right? The only program which is also controlled by another agency is only the BARC program. No other program, so the other programs which are like that are actually law and medicine in this country. Everything else, the main accrediting body is always the UGC, which is the University Grants Commission, and secondly, the state governments, right, which is the Haryana state government. And now, as I said, because we are an institution of eminence, it's called the National Higher Education Board, right? Those are the only people who, and obviously what this means is that all of these degrees are acceptable and recognized all over the world. The BA, the BDes, and the BARC, all over the world, all of them are recognized.
All right. And finally, the last question: how much control does the COA have on your BARC program?
So here's the interesting thing. I think the underlying question is this, Dion, that how are we doing all these crazy things that we are doing, right? And why isn't the COA closing us down? All right.
Yeah.
I think that's the underlying question. So I'm going to try and address that underlying question. Whoever has asked this question, the thing is this, all right? We actually fulfill all the requirements of the COA because they come and accredit our course every time, right? So they are actually, and in fact, I mean, many of the people who are on the executive committee are friends, right? And one of them, I'm not going to name her, but she was like, "Wow, we couldn't imagine that this could be done," right? And one of the reasons there are actually for this, part of it is you have to look at it this way: when most schools of architecture in this country opened, Dion, they were standalone institutions, right? They were not part of a university like we are. Right? What being part of a university allows us to do is we have much larger resources that we are working with, right? We have 8 schools and their faculty to interact with, right? So if tomorrow our students want to work on a thesis, they don't have to go outside and find somebody who works on cities design. Well, there are people in our school, but you can just scoot on over to the School of Public Policy and you can, go and work with somebody called Kaveri or Bhuvana, who are actually experts on urban design in the country, right? So that's one reason, right? That allows us to do. Secondly, and which is pretty recent, is we are an institution of eminence, and as an institution of eminence, the government has given us a lot more leeway to do many. In fact, the mandate for every institution of eminence is to produce courses which are at par globally, right? Which uses these kind of very different kind of techniques of learning, which allows students to do their own choice of things, right? This is the mandate of the government to the institution of eminence to do things like this. So we are taking complete advantage of all of that, right? This is why for our students, when they're going to do, if they want to do an exchange program outside, it's a cinch. It's very easy. We don't have to go through many hoops that other schools have to go through or other institutes have to go through. If our students want to go and take just one class somewhere else, the credit exchange is already approved for us because we are an institution of eminence, right? So we get all of these special kind of situations, and we are able to do many of these things that other places are not able to, right? And the council is actually now saying, oh, that's interesting that you're doing all of this, and they're trying, and we are actually in talks with them to see how we can change some of the curricula at that level.
All right, I think that's pretty cool and very insightful. We'll probably end the session here. But thank you all so much for being part of this discussion and coming and giving us your insights on the program at Jindal School of Art and Architecture. Right?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dion, for having us. Thank you all so much for attending this. Please remember, you want to get in touch with all of us. All you've got to do is go to the website, send out an email to the faculty or to students, to Azad, and we'll make sure we get back to you with any kind of questions you have, right? So feel free. Please do that.
Administrative comment. Any question's a good question.
Any question's a good question. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So lovely interacting with all of you. And thank you for being here. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Right? Bye-bye.
Bye.